Have you ever felt like you're not being paid your worth? Minimum wage should be raised to support the new cost of living we have endured in the United States after the COVID-19 pandemic. People that are being paid minimum wage are the people who prepare our food in fast food restaurants or prepare our linen in hotels when we go on vacation. I advocate for the people who are afraid to speak up but know that their wage should be way more than what it is now. I want to address the reasons why minimum wage should be increased. Next, I want to explain the effects of minimum wage on low wage jobs, explain experiences of those who work and are paid minimum wage, then address my counter argument as I address the cons of increasing minimum wage, and finally conclude with the benefits of raising minimum wage. Firstly, I want to address the reasons why minimum wage should be increased. There are many reasons as to why minimum wage should be raised. According to an article posted by Mary Babick on the politics of poverty, she addresses 6 reasons why minimum wage should be increased. Her first reason states that an increase in minimum wage is long overdue, as it has not been risen since the year of 2009. I advocate for this as because of the pandemic, many people were unemployed and left them to run into jobs that pay minimum wage to support their families and the new lifestyle as prices have raised due to inflation. Poverty is a huge thing in America as the rate of poverty is 11.1%, which totals to 37.9 million people in the United States. This brings me to Babick's third reason, as she explains that raising minimum wage will decrease the poverty rate. She moves to the economic side as she addresses the effects that raising minimum wage will have on the United States economic system. Her fourth reason states that raising minimum wage will also fuel economic growth, which can be used to grasp the government's attention as they can advocate for the economic system to thrive, which will promote them to raising minimum wage. Secondly, I want to address the effects of raising minimum wage in the United States. In an article focused on social workers and healthcare workers, many of them are advocating for new wages to reduce poverty and income inequality. Raising minimum wage can change those who are being paid low-wage lives tremendously. As stated by Jennifer Romish in her article, is raising the minimum wage a good idea? Evidence and implications for social work. New wages mean new hours, which could promote personal and family health and well-being. With this, many people that have suffered due to the pandemic are able to support their families better than they are before. Higher minimum wage will adjust social, human, and health services as workers are being paid more. According to Ramesh, raising wages for people in the United States healthcare sector make it easier for people to adjust to labor costs and health needs. In order to adapt to the rise of new wages, we must understand the consequences of the new wages. As stated by Ramesh, we must acknowledge the trade-offs that will come upon after we raise the minimum wage and how it's an essential to an honest debate and robust strategy. Raising wages for social and health workers increases equality in the United States, as everyone that works the same will be being paid the same wage. It is great with the increase in schedules and equal compensation. U.S. labor is promoting equality, which could help solve many problems in America, as we face much racism. Next, I want to address the experiences of people who work minimum wage to further explain how raising minimum wage can help them. Some people complain that minimum wage workers, such as people who work in shoe stores or fast food restaurants, should not make the same as people who sit behind the desk when fast food workers do way more than those. An article on Today.com written by Elise Pham states that people who work fast food are always and must adjust to multitasking, as they must take orders, make food, and clean all while standing up all day. And Pham further explains the way fast food workers are treated from tweets on the internet, as they explain how fast food workers are yelled at by customers and must deal with attitudes as well as carrying bosses, taking out the trash, and making sure that everything on their shift is done. This should make you wonder, why do they do all these things behind the scenes, but their wages are not explaining how much they work hard? Although many are opposed to raising minimum wage, they do not notice that they are benefiting too. As minimum wage rises, people who are being paid more than minimum wage will rise as well. In her article, FAM elucidates on how raising minimum wage will not just benefit people earning below $15 an hour, but also boost those who are making $15 an hour to $16 or $17 an hour. With FAM's article, people should understand how raising minimum wage affects the whole workforce tremendously in the great ways everyone will be paid their worth, whether they sit at a desk, flip burgers, or work on an assembly line in a warehouse. Although it may seem that raising minimum wage will be beneficial, keeping the wage the same is also beneficial. The U.S. labor law does not want to raise minimum wage, and that is because they don't think it will increase poverty. According to an article published on The Hill by Jared Skorup, he explains that people who live in poverty do not work at all, and only 10% of adults in low incomes work full-time. So therefore, raising the wages will not help those that are in poverty. Furthermore, poverty is a huge issue in the U.S., and many feel that raising minimum wage would increase the poverty rate and bring more income disparities. According to procon.org, raising minimum wage will make wages higher in lower income states, meaning that employers will not be able to afford employees, which result in employees not being able to afford housing and increase in the poverty rate, not a decrease. However, not raising minimum wages has its benefits. Raising minimum wage has better benefits. Raising minimum wages provides several employee opportunities in the U.S. An article written by Nicholas Johnson titled "Evidence Shows Raising Minimum Wage Hasn't Cost Jobs." He provides concrete background on how raising minimum wage will impact the U.S. economically and financially. Johnson stated that although it's up to the White House and Congress to raise federal minimum wage, many states have taken matters into their own hands, such as Michigan, who has raised their wage from $7.25 an hour to $7.40 an hour, and Washington, who has raised theirs to $9.32 an hour. This could be used to justify that raising the minimum wage will benefit the U.S., as this has not affected no other states but theirs. Raising minimum wage purpose is to help those who are making less than their worth. According to Johnson, when Obama was president, he stated that raising minimum wage to $10 would be enough to support a family of 3. As I conclude with reasoning as to why minimum wage should be raised, I have addressed the reasons why minimum wage should be raised, the effects of raising minimum wage, the many benefits of raising minimum wage, and the opposition of raising minimum wage. After all, isn't it time for the people in the United States to be paid as much as the taxes they are paying when they are the ones working the 8-hour shifts? It is time for the workers to go on a strike and advocate for the right of equal pay.